What do you mean by the population education?
Now tell me, what is carbon capture?
Can you give me a snapshot of disputes that Haryana has with its neighbouring states?
According to you, who are the best parliamentarians of India?
Tell me what steps India can take to improve its ranking in ease of doing business index.
May I?
Yes, come in.
Good afternoon, ma'ams. Good afternoon, sirs.
Good afternoon. Please be seated.
Thank you, sir.
Please give a brief introduction about yourself.
Sir, my name is Akansh Dhull. I am 22 years old. I was born in Rohtak, but my family shifted to Panchkula thereafter. I've done my schooling from Chandigarh, and then I shifted to Delhi to do my graduation. I did BCom Honours from Shri Ram College of Commerce. This is my second attempt at UPSC.
When did you pass out?
I passed out last year, sir.
You have done BCom from SRCC.
Yes, sir.
SRCC conducts, I think, campus selections also.
Yes, sir. It does.
Why didn't you go for the campus selection?
Sir, I was mesmerized with the idea of civil services since I was a child.
Oh, why are you so mesmerized with the civil services?
Sir, there are 2-3 reasons for it. Sir, first reason is that I come from the state of Haryana, and I have seen the impact civil servants can make at the micro and the macro level. So secondly, my parents also nudged me to do the civil services since I was a young boy. Thirdly, sir, I was good in academics, so I also had the belief that I can achieve it. And so there's also a personal lived experience, if you may allow, I'll want to share that with you.
Tell me.
Sir, my mother is now a school principal, but she was a school teacher earlier. And I always had this fantasy that why is there such a big difference between the private schools and the public schools? So I used to time and again ask her when I was a kid, maybe when I was in class 8th and 9th, that why do we see so much of a difference? And then she used to tell me that it is also because, and then I used to ask her, why can't you bring this change and that change? Then she said that we are at the last leg and it is the administrators who have this sort of decision-making power. So that also made my belief stronger that this is a platform where I can serve and have a life in public service.
Okay, tell me, now that you are so much passionate about joining the civil services and you have interacted with your mother, you have come to know that the public servants have the last this thing in the say in the matter. Once you get selected and you are posted as in course of time, you are posted as Principal Secretary Education in the state of Haryana, what changes will you recommend to the government for the system which you have seen through your mother to improve that system?
Sir, firstly, I would want, I believe in the idea that the primary education should be universal. There should be vocalization of secondary education and specialization in the tertiary education. Secondly, sir, I think in the state of Haryana, the teachers are also involved in a lot of tertiary work. For example, we have a scheme known as the Parivar Pehchan Patra, which also takes a lot of teachers' time. So in my humble opinion, I would want teachers should focus exclusively on teaching and not do other administrative work. That is something I would want to change. Thirdly, sir, I think we need to focus on employability and the relevant skills of the 21st century. I think we need to start teaching them to children at a very young age. For example, like coding, like awareness about artificial intelligence. These sort of things, I think even I as a child studying in Chandigarh in a good schools, we were not exposed to these skills. And I think these are the relevant skills of the modern world.
How the new education policy of 2020 has addressed these concerns which you have expressed just now?
So some of the things which I have mentioned are already done in the National Education Policy of 2020, like vocalization and universalization of primary education and some sort of new skills. And I think the implementation is the major part of it. But I think, sir, the exposure to modern ideas like artificial intelligence and coding, I think it is not addressed to that extent in the new education policy. And sir, I don't know if it is only with the state of Haryana that we see that teachers are involved in other work. I think the teachers also do the Sensex work. So I think that is also an additional problem because these days teachers are overburdened, sir. So I would also want
But
to change.
somebody has to do the census work also.
Sir, of
If
course.
not teachers, police personnel. If not police personnel, some other category of government employees, isn't it? Anyway, let us not discuss it further. What do you mean by the population education? Have you heard the term population education?
Sir, can I take a guess? I can't recall it exactly.
Try to make an intelligent guess.
Sir, it can either mean education at a population scale, or it can mean education about population dynamics.
It's education about population dynamics.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Akansh,
Yes, ma'am.
tell me, you were mentioning about education. So, in conversation lieu to that only, what is ghost classes? As you are so keen into education, so what are ghost classes? Are you aware of this?
Ma'am, as far as I can recall, it is those classes in which teachers are not present, or they're not taking the class,
No, no,
or
it's
there are
not
no
so.
students to it.
No, no, it's not so.
Okay.
Anyways, leave it. Recently, COP28 summit took place, right? So, what are the major takeaways of COP28?
Ma'am, there are 2-3 major takeaways.
Where it has taken place?
It took place in Dubai, ma'am.
Dubai. And where was the last one?
It was in Sharm el Sheikh, ma'am.
Okay.
So, ma'am, the first is that we have finally addressed the problem of fossil fuels, and
Okay.
Okay, that's the first one. Second, ma'am, the major industries have tried to come together for an industrial transition alliance. Thirdly, ma'am, we have made a loss and damage fund. Fourthly, ma'am, we have finally come together to the idea of adaptation, and have a significant amount of money put towards it, ma'am.
Adaptation for what?
Adaptation for climate change, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So we'll have an adaptation fund, and the country is committed to put in $100 billion towards it, but it was not done so, and they have reiterated that.
Now tell me, what is carbon capture? If you are aware of this, then what is carbon capture? Is it really going to mitigate and to fight with the climate change?
Ma'am, I don't think so. Carbon capture basically means capturing the carbon dioxide from the environment and placing it as solid carbon in the limestone reserves or any other place. In my humble opinion, I think carbon capture is not the way to go. It can always supplement us towards better policies of net zero. But ma'am, I don't personally believe in the idea of geoengineering. If we have to do carbon capture, we should always do it through afforestation.
What is Amrit Dharohar?
Ma'am, it's a scheme of the government to conserve wetlands, if I'm not wrong.
What are wetlands?
Ma'am, wetlands are land masses covered with water more or less throughout the year. For example, even paddy fields are considered wetlands.
How is wetland different from mangroves?
Ma'am, wetlands are freshwater areas, and mangroves are saline water areas. And mangroves occur in the intertidal zones, and wetlands can occur anywhere, and they're mostly terrestrial.
So why it is important to conserve wetlands and mangroves?
There are 3-4 reasons to it. First, they act as a carbon sink.
Okay.
Second, they conserve a lot of biodiversity. Thirdly, they are also drivers towards blue-green infrastructure, which is very important in today's urbanization. Fourthly, they add a lot of aesthetic value.
Does it have any role to play in economy?
Ma'am, I think they can be drivers towards better tourism. At the same time, they can provide aesthetic value. That is what I can take on.
Okay, okay. What do you understand by minimum wage and living wage? So we are with what? India is still going with minimum wage or living wage? You are aware with the term?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, minimum wage is the floor amount set by the government, which is to be paid to any laborer. Living wage is a broader concept which deals with how much money a person requires, how much wage a person requires to have a decent standard of living. So it may be above the minimum wage, or it may be below the minimum wage. And I think in India we follow the minimum wage.
Okay, okay. My last question to you. I would like to know your opinion on menstrual leave. Should it be granted to women, or what is your stand, or it should be left like that?
Can I take a few seconds to think? I think menstrual leave should be granted to women. It should not, but at the same time, it should not be granted as some sort of charity or some sort of sympathy. I think anyone requires a break, and we shouldn't put a double burden on anyone at this point of time. At the same time, it doesn't make women inferior. So a menstrual leave, but it should also be complemented with other sorts of paternal leaves required by parents, such as by fathers, like the paternal leave.
Thank you.
Akansh,
Yes, ma'am.
you are from Haryana.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you give me a snapshot of disputes that Haryana has with its neighboring states?
Ma'am, first of all, Haryana has an issue. Haryana has two issues with Punjab. First is the SYL issue, and second is the issue over Chandigarh. Second, ma'am, I think Haryana has a land dispute with Himachal over the Parvanu region. Thirdly, ma'am, there are 2-3 recent skirmishes with Rajasthan. One was about a mob lynching case which involved people from Haryana or happened in Haryana. I'm not exactly aware of it. It was a small news, but it didn't capture national headlines. And fourth is the issue of Haryana with New Delhi. It's over the sharing of water, because Haryana has to give certain amount of water to New Delhi, and Haryana itself faces scarcity of water in dry regions, in dry periods. So I think that is an issue with New Delhi.
You see, unemployment rate in Haryana is one of the highest in the country. What are the reasons behind it?
Ma'am, firstly, as per the PLFS survey, which came recently, Haryana has a 5.2% unemployment rate. So the high unemployment rate is by the CMIE survey. So there can be 2-3 reasons to it. I think first is that CMIE survey has a smaller sample space, and at the same time it talks
So you're
about...
saying it's error of surveying and actually unemployment is not there?
Ma'am, according to me, if a national survey comes in and there's a private survey, I tend to believe with the PLFS survey.
Okay,
At the same
let's
time,
talk
there are
about
some
the
issues.
national survey. In India, as a nation, unemployment rate is one of the highest. What do you have to say about that?
Ma'am, there are some genuine issues, and the same also apply to the state of Haryana. So these issues, first of all, it is about employability. I think unemployment is a smaller issue and employability is a bigger issue, because these days we are seeing that a lot of youth has the necessary degrees, but they don't have the necessary skill. So the private players are not interested to hire them. That is one problem. I think the second problem is that there is a demand supply mismatch. So areas where
I think you've made your point. I want to move on to next question, which is that you wanted to, you just mentioned it to my colleague, that you want to make impact to the society. And I read in your DAF that your father does social service and is active in politics.
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't politics a better medium to make an impact as compared to civil services? I mean, maybe that would have been easier for you to do. You're young people are anyway not coming into politics in India.
Ma'am, I think civil services is easier for me because I have good academic command.
So you are saying politicians don't have good academic command?
No, ma'am. I mean that civil services requires academic command as the primary condition, and that is not the condition required in civil services. So it is a strength I want to use in civil services. At the same time, ma'am, politics is a good way to serve the society. But personally, I believe that there are many variables to it, and politics serve the society at a larger level. There is the issue, but ultimately it is the permanent executive which takes up those issues.
Okay, my last question to you would be, tell me the biggest failure of your life till now. Have you ever failed in life?
Ma'am, of course, but I can't see, I am very lucky and fortunate to not have anything big as failure in my life. But
or maybe you do not have enough experience and you're aiming to run a district. You've never failed in your life, in anything.
Ma'am, I have failed in my academic careers. I failed the mains exam last year. And I failed a lot of debates when I was a kid and I used to debate a lot. So that are failures, but at that time I was very arrogant that why did I fail? But over time I've realized that because, as you rightly mentioned, I think I have little experience. So maybe that's why I couldn't understand things in totality. So that is my failure.
Hi, Akansh. Akansh, you have, under your service preference, you have mentioned foreign services as 21st rank. Why is it so? You have studied globalization and all those things. Still IFS is so low. Why?
Sir, there are 2-3 reasons to it. Excuse me. First, sir, because I've debated in school and I've also studied political science and international relations, I realized that I don't have that much keen interest in it that I should pursue it as a lifelong career. That was one reason. Secondly, sir, I think foreign service is an immensely prestigious service, but I want to serve my country by staying in India. And in foreign services, we have to stay outside the country for a considerable amount of time. So that's a personal choice.
Okay, fine. You have been selected as best parliamentarian
Yes, sir.
in your parliamentarian debate kind of championship. Now, according to you, I mean, who are the best parliamentarians of India? Can you name a few, in your opinion?
Sir, there are 2-3 I can recall right now. I think Atal Bihari Vajpayee was a great parliamentarian. Secondly, I think Sitaram Yechuri is a great parliamentarian.
But why? I mean, just one or two reasons.
Sir, I think in my opinion, I believe that a parliamentarian should have 2-3 qualities. First, they should go above the party lines and discuss what are the important issues without politicization, at least the national issues. Secondly, they should address the issues raised in their constituency, and they should avidly participate in debates and be present in parliament during sessions. And thirdly, sir, I think they should follow the decorum of the parliament and not misuse their privileges.
So recently, a record number of parliamentarians have been expelled from the house. What is your take on it?
Sir, I think it's a combined failure, and I have 2-3 points to it. In terms of the points of the opposition, there are 2-3 things. I think the opposition has the agenda to politicize the issues, even the issues which require debate and deliberation. That is first reason. Secondly, I think, sir, the practice of disruptions has gained traction in the opposition, and I think they find it convenient to use it. In terms of the treasury, I think they also have failed. Firstly, I think, sir, they shy away from talking on bigger issues, and they also find it convenient that they can run the parliament like this, and they focus more on quantity than quality. So that is the thing. And I think there are systemic issues also, sir, that the Indian parliament is designed in such a way that the government gets too much power in deciding the agenda of the house. So I think that creates a problem. And at the same time, sir, I think the anti-defection law has created a lot of problems.
Right, fine. You are from Haryana, right?
Yes, sir.
Haryana has two wonderful distinctions. One is positive, that it has one of the highest per capita income state-wise in India. But there is another one which is very worrisome, which is the lowest child sex ratio. So, is there any correlation between the two?
Sir, I totally agree with you that the economic prosperity which came in Haryana was not congruent with the social development. So, I think there's not a correlation per se, but we can always say that as the society progressed materially and they became very liberal materially, they couldn't evolve their social norms accordingly.
Right, fine. You have also studied taxation systems of India, right?
Yes, sir, to a certain extent.
In indirect tax, we have certain reforms like GST. Indirect taxes, do we have any kind of reforms or any reform on the anvil?
So the coming reforms, I'm not particularly aware.
As per you, any reform which is required in direct tax?
I think, sir, we have recently, now I remember we have brought the new tax regime. So that is a reform we have made so that people are not compelled to do deductions and they can consume. I think the other reform, I think, is, sir, I would believe that the compliance should be easier. And we've already gone with the faceless mechanism, so it is easier. But we face some issues regarding the IT portal of direct taxes. So I think these sort of things should be removed. At the same time, sir, I think in the corporate tax we can do better. We can improve. We can extend the limit of 15% taxation on new entities for the next 2-3 years, in my opinion.
Right. And what is input tax credit in GST?
So basically, that is why GST, that is a marquee feature of GST, that when we pay taxes on the final price, we tend to take benefit of the taxes paid during the intermediate manufacturing. So that removes cascading.
Right. Two of your strengths.
Sir, my first strength is that I have good emotional management. I am able to understand emotions and I have very good relationships. Secondly, sir, I think I am a very collaborative person. I love to take everyone along and I think I'm a team player.
Sure. Thank you, Akansh.
Akansh, tell me what steps India can take to improve its ranking in ease of doing business index.
Sir, I can think of 3-4 right now. I think, sir, we have to improve the way we enforce property laws, and at the same time, how property is registered. It takes a lot of time and it discourages. Secondly, I think the IBC requires some changes. It's a good step, but I think we can improve the way it is done for MSMEs. We can make the timeline smaller. Thirdly, I think we can provide better loan mechanisms, better loans to MSMEs. We're already doing it, but this I personally think that still people face a lot of difficulties. Fourth, the logistics sectors has to improve, and we've come up with the National Logistics Policy of 2022, but I think we can take more steps.
Okay. Tell me something about subsidies. What is a subsidy?
Subsidy is a price discount paid by the government to reduce the final price of goods and services.
Is there any difference between subsidies and freebies?
I think, sir, freebies can be in the form of subsidies, but I think all freebies are not personally subsidies, because subsidy, I think, is about reducing the price to make it more affordable. But sometimes freebies tend to be in those areas where they are affordable but to gain populism.
Can you give me some examples of both?
So subsidy is, I think we have for freebies, I think, sir, the Punjab government doesn't take electricity charges from consumers, so I think that's a freebie. And for subsidy, I think, sir, the Punjab government provides industrial subsidy to a lot of units, so that's subsidy.
Okay. Tell me something about Pacific Ring of Fire. Have you heard of it?
Sir, Pacific Ring of Fire is a continuous belt which runs in the Pacific and goes on, which is an area where there are a lot of where there are two plates colliding, and then there are volcanoes because of it.
Okay. So
90% of the volcanoes happen there.
Okay, fine. So what is the relationship between the plate tectonics and volcanic activity?
So basically, when the plates converge, when the plates converge, and if they're oceanic plates, there's subduction of the plate which is denser, and that creates a volcanic eruption. If there is an ocean continental plate, like the Eurasian plate with the Eurasian plate, we see that then also there is volcanic eruption, but when there are continental plates colliding, there is not a volcanic eruption.
Can you give me one example where the area is seismically active but it is not prone to volcanic activity?
Sir, I think now the areas of Himalayas are seismically active, but there is no.
Have you read about the Aditya L1 mission?
Yes, sir, I've read about it.
Can you tell me something about it?
It's India's mission to monitor the sun's corona and the plasmic activity and the coronal mass ejection from the sun.
So what is this L1 in Aditya L1 mission?
Sir, L1 is the Lagrange point. I think there are 3 Lagrange points between two planetary bodies where the gravitational pull balances each other out, and there's no need of too much energy.
Okay, fine. My final question to you is, what are ultra mega power projects?
Sir, I'm not aware of the technical meanings.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Do you see any advantage in outsourcing accounting and finance functions?
Can you repeat it?
Do you see any advantage? What are the advantages of outsourcing accounting and finance functions?
Sir, by the government?
By the government or by a private sector?
Sir, I think it reduces conflict of interest. So there can be better financial reporting, and true and fair picture of the firms can be presented. I think that can happen if we are outsourcing. Secondly, sir, we can always minimize the cost and take advantage of cheaper labor. And thirdly, sir, I think it also builds skill.
Suppose if you implement this idea in government accounting, what could go wrong?
Sir, there are 2-3 things I can think of. Firstly, sir, I think a lot of government data is confidential, so that can leak. I think that is a problem. Secondly, sir, I think it may lead to some sort of insider trading and rigging. That can also happen if it is a government data regarding a PSU or something. Thirdly, sir, I think it can also create controversies with the way the government spends money.
What is the difference between the financial accounting and management accounting?
Sir, financial accounting deals with the larger expenditure and revenue part of a firm, whereas the management accounting deals about the organizational part of it and how the organization functions, and how to take accounting into that perspective.
Good. How ROR is distinct from IRR?
Sir, IRR is basically the rate at which the net present value of the firm gets to 0. So it is an internal rate. ROR is a market or a reference rate we draw from outside, and it is a rate at which we discount projects to know whether they are good or not. So, sir, RRR is borrowed, whereas IRR is internal.
Wonderful. There are two terms, IGAS, Indian Government Accounting Standards. Have you heard of this?
No, sir, I have not heard them.
Okay. It was nice talking to you. Because your interview is over, you may go now.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Sit down.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Which attempt is this for
This
you?
is my second attempt.
Second. And first interview.
First attempt.
Okay. How have you done in your mains?
I think I did good, but I felt so last year also.
Okay.
But this year I changed how I write, and I extensively improved my knowledge base. I think I've done better.
You have done better. That's wonderful. How was your today's experience?
It was very good.
Mm-hmm.
I think the questions were very diverse,
Mm-hmm.
and I liked it.
What is assessment, your own assessment of your performance?
Sir, I think I did fairly well, and luckily the questions you asked were the questions I knew. So that is what I think I did well.
Now, as far as your domain knowledge is concerned, there is no issues. Whatever questions you asked, you answered questions confidently and clearly also. So there was no confusion, and there was no this thing. Only thing which we have noticed that on factual questions, at times your answers used to be too long.
Long.
Try to be crisp, more focused, and more pointed, isn't it? So that you allow the board member to ask you a counter question.
Yes.
Isn't it? So speak 1 or 2, 3 sentences, 4 sentences, and then wait for a reaction. So that will add to your performance, because you know the subject, you can speak at length on subjects. So try to curb that habit of, whenever you feel that feeling will come to your mind that is going a bit too long.
So sometimes I think I'm not able to express myself in less words. That is what I feel.
Could be, but try to inculcate that habit. That will help you. Otherwise, certain areas, I mean, I'm not talking about the positives. Positives are all
okay, sir.
All good. So you are not here to listen to our voice, which is music to our ears.
Yes.
There are certain things which you must write down so that you improve upon your performance. Otherwise, you are a wonderful candidate. That I have told you at the very outset.
Okay.
So there is no doubt on the quality of your head or heart. You are a wonderful candidate. Only thing is like politics. A very controversial question was asked. Your father is in politics, and you want to be a civil servant. Very simple question. There was no need for you to have said, I am good at academics and all that. Isn't it? That's just my choice. That is, I think politics is probably, I am not meant for politics.
Okay.
Or politics is not my cup of tea. Something like that. Instead of it tantamounts to bragging about one's qualification and one's knowledge. So that you should not only be humble, you should also appear to be humble, isn't it? So you have to be very humble, very polite. So no sign of aggression that just look at me, look at my qualifications.
Yes.
That should not be there. That your results, your qualification will speak for itself. You need not to boast about that. So some element of that aggression was there while you were speaking.
In this or in the entire interview?
No, just this politics part. So you have to word it very cautiously,
Yes.
isn't it? Then,
Sir, may I?
Yeah.
Sir, is saying that it is not my cup of tea an answer enough?
not my cup of tea. I mean, I think I'm
Don't
best
have
fit
the
for politics.
aptitude for
Yeah,
it.
yes, no aptitude. As simple as that.
Hmm.
Nobody can question your aptitude. Why you don't have aptitude? Your father has an aptitude. Why you don't have an aptitude? Isn't it? Nobody can question that. But just is the way of
Yes,
speaking. How you foreign service. One disturbing thing is that you have kept it at 21 or 22. Why so?
Sir, personally, that is, I told a very honest answer. I want to live in India and
That
serve.
is all right. You could have kept it at number 4, number 5. The result would have been the same.
I wanted to be honest about it. I genuinely don't want to be in the foreign service.
I understand that, but it tantamounts to saying that foreign service is nobody's choice, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It
That is why
can
I'm
sound
asking
like
you,
that.
and that question may be asked. So you said honestly, no doubt about it. Just work on that. What could be more refined way of because foreign service is a very prestigious service, isn't it? The people who get selected into the foreign service, they represent our country.
Yes, sir.
Not only other countries, but also in for Indian diaspora abroad.
Absolutely.
So that is important. And otherwise, 2-3 things we have said. With those caveats, you are a wonderful candidate.
Okay.
You will be getting very good marks, no doubt in our mind, in the interview. Only thing is that be a patient listener of questions. Try to give very crisp answers, very focused answers, isn't it? And very balanced also at the same time. On any, it's not that you give a imbalanced answer anywhere today, but keep it somewhere behind the back of your mind that any contentious issue and all that, don't take any extremes, don't take any extreme view, just maintain your neutrality, isn't it? And be your natural self, normal self, with clarity of purpose, and wherever you think that you can show to the board that you can capable of thinking differently, out of the box solution, isn't it? You should go for that out of box solution, isn't it? So that is important, and with those qualities, I don't think your interview is going to be a smooth sail. I am very clear about that. So you'll be getting good marks in the interview. If you have done well in the mains, nothing is going to stop. Nobody will stop you also from getting into the services. Only 3-4 points which you have noted today. It's not criticism.
Yes.
It's just to tell you that be careful, so that there is just even not 1% of error in your interview.
Sir, can I ask 2-3 things?
Yeah.
Did any of you feel that I was not a patient listener? Because that's a problem which I genuinely have.
Patiently, what happens, some people are in love with their voice. They want to speak more and more. So there you have to curb your habit. I know, subject problem with persons like you or candidates like you that you know enough on anything and everything. So in your exuberance to speak out, so you don't just wait for the answer to be completed. Collect your ideas for a while, so that it appears to the board also this boy is thinking, collecting his ideas, and then speaking up. So that is a better way of conversation, isn't it? Otherwise, nothing fundamentally wrong. Nothing.
I understood.
Small issues, and you work on the rough edges and try to sharpen your rough edges. Then you will do wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All the best to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.